Greetings, kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and this is Our World of Darkness. And I have something special for you guys tonight. A little bit of a story time. Last night, I had several individuals who are interested in being involved in the large-scale Chronicle that I'm planning, which will be run on Discord and Roll20. We got together for a little bit of a playtest. This was not something that was going to affect our overall Chronicle, but something that we could all play with and just get a feel for the characters, a feel for the systems, and to see what Roll20 truly has to offer. Now, the individuals in question were Sam Heron, whose clan never came up, Dawn Rose, who introduced herself as a member of the Ministry, Charlie Robichaud, member of Clan Nosferatu, Tinia Jabor, member of Clan Bruja, Cash Money, I love that name, Cash Money, another member of Clan Nosferatu, and Israfel Afzal, if I'm probably murdering that name, of the Banu Hakim. Now, those 6 individuals were invited, summoned, you might say, to an abandoned recreation center, which the primogen of the city, Portland, Oregon, which is the city that I'm hosting the Chronicle in, had asked them all to join him there because he had a situation that he had been put in charge of for one reason or another. No real reason why this guy was put in charge. It was just the NPC I felt like portraying. Now, he and 3 of his enforcers were there. So it was Primogen Billy Smith, or the Mysterious Billy Smith. If you are interested in Portland history, check out the stories behind the Mysterious Billy Smith, who was a real individual in the 1920s who used to host underground fight rings. His 3 enforcers were Marco Rhino and Tyra. Tyra's out front. She was letting people in and making sure no one left or entered before the meeting was over. Marco and Rhino stayed by their boss's side. In the back room, they had a subject. The subject, who affectionately over time became known as Salad Bar, was a very large individual who had been found at a local shopping center or a supermarket in the produce section, mindlessly shoveling food into his face. He had to be restrained by authorities because he is becoming violent to anybody who would try to get him to stop. After being restrained, the kindred used their powers of influence to make sure that they were able to have him in their custody. Now, this had been around the 20th incident of this to happen over 3 weeks, of people who were walking into grocery stores, farmers markets, local gardens, anything that had edible vegetation. And these people would just go animalistic, almost like they were in a kindred-style frenzy for food, shoveling as much vegetation, fruits, and vegetables into their mouths as possible. The kindred had done a good job trying to keep this out of media as much as possible, as they decided, after psychologists and other specialists were called in to look at the situation, they could not find a mundane reason why people were going into these fugue states and gorging themselves on vegetation. They decided that it must be supernatural in some origin. Blood tests were been done, but the results had not been back yet. So, Billy Smith, the kindred who was placed in charge of the situation, or at least this branch of investigation, is the primogen of Clan Bruja. He is a Haleen Bruja, the Bruja who did not break off and join the Anarchs. The individual kindred that he called in were kindred that he just didn't know that well personally. And this was an opportunity for them to experiment on the subject and also for him to size up the kindred. They spoke for a little while about what they should do. And while they were having a conversation, he had shown them what the subject looked like. The subject was a male, approximately in the high 200s of pounds, and he was in a back room with several boxes of vegetables, gorging. Whenever he'd come to the end of a box, he would get belligerent and aggressive and throw the box and find another one and start again. The NPC Rhino was left to watch the door, as the others went to another room in the rec center, found a table, sat down, and decided to have a conversation about how this was going to work. Many thoughts came to mind through the kindred. Israfel, actually, sorry, not Israfel. It was Cash Money. Cash Money, the Nosferatu, decided to use his technological prowess and try to figure out if there was a common link using pings from cell towers to find out if they had been in the same location, if they lived in the same areas, if the stores were in the same places, which, no, it had happened all over Portland, which is a fairly large area. They also lived all over Portland, and the locations where they had become aggressively hungry were close to home, where they could have either walked or driven or something. Either way, they did not go out of their way to do this. No other real investigation was done at this point by them. He was able to find that the common link between all of them is that everybody in the past month had been for a visit to the Portland Natural History Museum. He decided to keep this information to himself for the time being. While the discussion was going on, Dawn, our ministry, decided that she was going to try to see if there was anything different about his blood on a kindred level. So, using the obfuscate discipline of silence of death, she was sneaking up behind him, Rhino watching her in detached amusement from the corner. And as she went to grab him, her test did not go well. She did not botch. She didn't get a bestial failure or anything like that, but she did not get any successes. So as she went to grapple and bite down, he bent over further to reach deeper into the box. And missed. At which point, Tinia, our Bruja, walks into the door and sees the amusing event take place. Over the next couple of minutes, while teasing was happening and hazing, the other kindred decided to join the area also. Charlie, one of our Nosferatu, decided that it was time to get some answers out of this individual. And as they all talked about how they were going to find this, they attempted to use animalism on him, which seemed possibly to do something, but not much of an outcome came from that. He looked up from his food just long enough to give them a dirty look and then hunched back over, more selfishly focusing on his food as he's going through the boxes, coming to the end, mind you. And as they're talking about everything, he does reach the end. He does reach the end of the food that had been provided for him, and he takes a cardboard box and just chucks it. I had everybody throw a dodge test, athletics plus dexterity, and unfortunately, Charlie, our Nosferatu, was the one who did not do too well. And not only did he not do too well, He also got a bestial failure. With that, I rolled a die to see exactly what his effect would be, and he got the clan compulsion. Nosferatu are cryptophiles, if you don't know anything about that. They need to find information. They hunger for it. They become aggressive if they don't get it. He's 2 traits down in all tests involving anything else other than finding out the answers to what's going on with this person who has affectionately been named Salad Bar at this point. With that, he decides that he's gonna find this answer. He's getting highly aggravated with everything that's going on, and he pulls a gun and levels it at Salad Bar and starts screaming about him, about "Tell me why this kale's so important," and other such nonsense. Many things happen at this point. Salad Bar has had enough. He doesn't like the way that he's being talked to by Charlie, and he goes to attack him, as Salad Bar is holding the gun up. Tinia, the Bruja, leaps, trying to jump on Salad Bar to push him out of the way because a damaged subject is probably not the best thing to use. And Sam Heron, being the pothead that he is, decides to light up because this is entertaining and this is the closest thing he has to popcorn anyway. Tinia misses. Charlie, seeing what's going on, also, he pulls the trigger, but not wanting to hit Tinia, he flinches in the wrong direction and ends up shooting the wall. And Salad Bar rakes him violently across the face. A punch is thrown right into Salad Bar's ribs from Charlie, using lethal body. Bones crashing, sinew ripping. Coughs up some blood, but he's still going. And he's now not even thinking about the person who just yelled at him or shot or punched him or shot at him. He's thinking about Sam. He smells the smell of the burning plants in the air and starts trying to chase after him. Sam runs. Dawn runs. The fight continues. And as this happens, they decide the best thing to do is to get him pinned down somehow. So Tinia, our Bruja, is wrestling this guy to the floor. Charlie decides that he's going to go over and start shuffling through the bits and pieces of bitten and eaten up vegetation on the floor. And as he's as he's confronted by cash, money, he turns to him with a handful of chewed up vegetables and goes, "The answer's here." It was ridiculous. Cash tells him, no, I think the answer might actually be at the Natural History Museum, and it lets him know about what is going on and what the common link is. And they decide that it's time to put this guy at least in a calmer state. So Charlie decides that he's going to feed off of him. After a couple seconds of fighting, he grabs a hold of a limb and bites down and starts draining. But he's not getting any sustenance from it. It's not hurting him. But he's not enjoying it as much. The food seems to be very choleric and full of anger and passion, but not much sustenance. That has a bit of a stale taste to it. When they drain him completely and he's still trying to fight his way off the floor, it still wants to follow that smoke. Sam, who's already gone out the door and ran down the hallway. Someone comes up with the great idea that, oh, he's got to be kindred. He's a deranged kindred. Maybe this is the Malkavians. Maybe this is the Hakata who are involved in this. I love the fact that they automatically blame the Malkavians. Well, them thinking that's a kindred, Smith, Billy, the Bruja Primogen, says, well, then stake him. And I believe it was Charlie who pulled out the very large gun. No. I believe it was Israfil who pulled out the very large gun that was modified and would be able to stake him. Shooting him, he did not quite pass the staking test, but the power of the gun blew a hole in the back of Salad Bar, who continued to fight for what he wanted. The exposed heart being there, Charlie reaches into the ribcage, grabs the heart, and crushes it. Taking a stain for his action, he would have taken 2 stains, except for the fact that he noticed that it was still moving. The monster would not go down even without a heart. That ain't kindred, Billy Smith yells. So now the next funny thing is Charlie grabs him by the face and says, "Forget everything." Trying to use cloud memory on this guy, which kind of hurt, but was also funny. I wanted to let that happen. It was good. But after he realized that it wasn't going to be to any effect, they decided to just go ahead and put his neck on backwards. Snap his neck. That'll kill him, right? Well, the body stopped moving for sure. But the dead-eyed Salad Bar just stared up at him, opening and closing his mouth like a goldfish that had fallen out of his tank. Just still trying to get that sustenance, but not being able to move anything. Rhino, at this point, walks over and stomps on his head. Cash Money yelling, "How did you know that would work?" Rhino's a mute. He's got a slashed throat. He has had it since before he was embraced. Takes out a small chalkboard and scribbles down, "You stomp on the brain of anything, it's probably going to kill it." While this is happening, Israfel slips outside. He's going to go to his camper and see if he can get some materials to collect samples. Blood, skin, hair, whatever. Forensic stuff. Where Tyra, one of the Brujah Primogen's other enforcers, is sitting outside smoking a cigarette and nods at him and points out into the distance and says, "They with you?" And there's like 3 or 4 dozen people who are just slowly making their way to the rec center. Anytime they walk past a tree or a bush or anything, they're ripping off leaves and shoving them into their mouths. Not happy with what they're eating, obviously, but hungering for foliage. Israfel runs back inside and informs everybody, a lot of them running back over to the front of the building and looking out the windows and seeing the large portion of individuals who are heading towards their area. They discovered that these things are zombies, and they're craving vegetation. It's not typically what you find. This is a supernatural thing, obviously. And it was around this time that I decided to call Post. This was a one shot. I didn't think that anybody was actually going to accomplish anything with this. It was just an excuse for them to use their powers with a small setting, so that it wasn't just some ridiculous battle royale and throwing test after test for violence. I wanted to give them something to inspect. And I think that worked. And from what I understand, everybody had a good time. It was silly, but they were able to keep in character, and they were able to get what the purpose of the evening was accomplished, and that was to learn what their characters were capable of, to try out the personality types that they themselves decided to play. And I think that was well achieved. Now, I chose that plot line because it would be fun. I was inspired by that plot line by a few different events. First off, the CDC actually does have a zombie preparedness plan. Several of the countries do. Now, these are exercises in how they will handle a situation such as an outbreak, not necessarily really zombies. But in those plans, it actually has different categories of zombies, such as magical zombies, space radiation zombies. But one of the categories is actually vegetarian zombies. What are they going to do if the dead rise from the grave, or even if not dead, even if we have like more of a 28 days situation where people just return to a bestial state and just start raiding the countryside, destroying crops, and making it difficult for people to live, what they would do. Another one is a meme that I saw where it was a silhouette of a zombie chasing some anthropomorphic vegetables who had terrified looks on their faces, and above the thing had the captions "Vegan zombies crave grains." Thought it was cute. And one event actually occurred to me uh, about 4 or 5 years ago. I was at a Walmart. I'm going to name the store directly because I'm not happy with the way that the employees handled this situation. So they can hate me all they want. But I was at the Walmart in North Fort Myers, Florida, across from the Merchants Crossing Plaza, where, while shopping in the produce section, a man who was in his late 60s, early 70s came in and mindlessly, devoid of emotion, just wandered in and started to shove vegetables in his mouth. Everything. If it was a vegetable, he was eating it. He did this for a few minutes with washers and gawkers, with everything happening. Me being among them, I didn't really know what to do with that. I was kind of in shock that it was happening. Security guards and police actually had to take him out of there. He wasn't angry or belligerent or anything. In fact, he didn't say anything. He just ate and then was taken away. I didn't see him again after that. The employees of the Walmart, one of which wearing a tie, which tells me management, came over, about 2 or 3 of them, and started to clean everything up. Anything that was not overtly damaged, anything that didn't look like it had a bite taken out of it or anything like that, was placed right back up on the shelf. That got me thinking about the contamination that man probably could have put on the food that they were just putting right back up on the shelves. I don't shop at Walmart anymore, and that's not the main reason. I don't shop there because the price gouging and stuff. Personal things. But I don't shop at Walmart anymore because I've seen that also. It was disturbing. It bothered me, to say the least. And I was thinking that if there were a group of people much like him who happened to have the man at that Walmart who happened to have a contagious disease, and they did stuff like that, then it would just spread. They walk into stores, it could spread. They walk to farmers markets, it could spread. If they walk into farms and mess with the harvest, it would spread. And now the concept of a vegetarian zombie doesn't sound too terrifying, except for the fact that it would contaminate the food. It would spread very quickly to everybody, and we'd all become mindless, grain craving beasts. And it made me think of vampire with the concept of zombies. And when I say that, I mean the Romero style zombies, the flesh eating zombies. If we can look at it and go, well, it's not directly affecting us. When a zombie apocalypse happens, you can't walk away from that. That's something that's always going to be in your world's canon. Even if the military comes in and gets it under control, it's something that happened. That is going to strain the masquerade. And when the vampires see that kind of things happening, yes, they're going to work on it, such as Billy Smith and the other Camarilla got together and they called in these individuals, the players, to handle the situation. Not successfully, but handle the situation. When I think about a vampire who's in a zombie-esque situation, Walking Dead, Night of the Living Dead kind of situation, I actually do see the zombies just walking right past them, not being interested in vampires in general because it's not their food. Their bodies have already been dead. They don't want that. They want living flesh. And I see the vampires getting a false sense of security about that because eventually they're going to need to feed. Anyway, that is what we did last night, and it was ridiculous. It was a lot of fun, and I plan on having a lot of fun with these people again. Next week, hopefully next week, we'll be starting the actual storyline, and this will become a pleasant, fun thing that occurred just for the hell of it. Um, but I gotta say that as amusing as it was, and as ridiculous as the topic was, the players all did very, very well, and I cannot wait to play with them again. But I can say running a game on Discord and Roll20 is definitely something that I'm going to have to get used to because there are so many moving parts at once. But I thought everybody would enjoy that little story, and I hope you do. I hope you did. And if you did, I'll be happy to share more recaps or possibly even video of the gameplay when the actual Chronicle starts up here on the channel. But with that, I am Voivode Makats. This is Our World of Darkness, and that was one of the stories of Our World of Darkness. When a group of about half a dozen kindred were introduced to a zombie apocalypse of vegan vampires. Or, sorry, of vegan zombies. I was trying to be all mysterious with that one. I bet they're never going to stop talking about it. Vegans, you know. They like to let everybody know. But on that was a lot of fun, and hopefully we will have more of that. Thank you for joining me with this ridiculous story of the World of Darkness. Thank you. Goodbye.